Hello, Romanisti and fans of Italian football. I'm Wayne Gerard. How you doing? It has been about a week since our last live stream. Here we are today, and we're going to be breaking down a few different topics. One of those that I'm really happy to narrate here, is the story of Lukaku from rags to riches. It's a interview that he gave to the Players Tribune back in 2018, but I haven't fully read it yet. I did look at a few lines. It seems really interesting, like a true, when you get inside of a player and get to know them. That's the type of stuff that I like, getting to know not just the player, but the man themselves. So I'm looking forward to that. We're also going to be taking a look at the Azzurri's probable formations against Malta, which will be later today at the time of recording. What else do we got? We're going to definitely analyze some top prospects for Roma in the goalkeeping situation. And before we do that, we are going to address the elephant in the room, which is this betting scandal taking place. And by the way, guys, if you don't have all day and you're just jumping in now, you will be able to listen to this episode on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I figure those are the big ones that you probably have downloaded on your phone. So, in case you got to run, you can definitely plug this episode in later and check it out. And as always, leave a comment. Let me know what you think of things, what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of, and what you think would help the channel grow. But I think the first thing that we should definitely do is, as I mentioned, is address that elephant. And we know now the situation. Zaniolo, not Zalewski, but also Tonali and Fagioli are implicated. Apparently, what happened was as the boys were training for the Azzurri at Coverciano, right outside of Florence, a beautiful training pitch, that the police just showed up, like a few different cop cars, and demanded to speak with the boys immediately. And they have since gotten attorneys. So it is a developing situation. Zaniolo says the only thing that I bet on was blackjack and poker on a website. Now, the issue is that the website that they used, so certain websites are legal and certain websites are illegal in Italy, and they have pretty significant penalties to them. So as we look at, I'm going to pull this up on our screen here, some of the implications. This is from The Athletic, written by James Horncastle. He always knows what's going on. A writer, researcher, journalist, whatever, someone I respect a lot. I've never really spoken to him much, but he's a great brain. So the question is, how serious are the potential punishments? And let's go down here. It says, if it were that proven that the players did bet on football, they would be in breach of Article 24 of the Sporting Justice Code. There is a provision in the same article for a ban of no less than 3 years for the violation and a fine of no less than €25,000. Such a ban would theoretically apply in the case of Tonali and Zaniolo to the Premier League. In such circumstances, the suspension can be reduced by 50% if a plea bargain is entered. Deals to commute a sentence have also been struck in the past if a perp collaborates with the sporting justice system, which was the case with Vittorio Micolucci, who was banned for 14 months while playing for Ascoli back in 2011. How is this being received in Italy? And Horncastle brings up a good point here. It's shocking enough that this news about Fagioli, but also the sight of police cars storming the training center, this isn't a good look. It's got that emotional factor to it. Fagioli named Serie A Young Player of the Year. Zaniolo is somebody who's been with the national team for about 5 years now. And Tonali is the most expensive Italian purchase of all time, £55 million, which is, of course, just this past summer. It's shocking. These three are a core of the new wave, new generation of the Azzurri. You've got Zaniolo, who will be a mainstay attacker. He's been called up by not only Mancini, but Spalletti as well, of course. Fagioli, who is, like I said, Serie A Young Footballer of the Year last year, young player. So this is a kid who's going to become something very big. And then Tonali, who I think is the next captain of the national team. If I had to pick, before all this, if I had to pick, going into the next Euro tournament, who would be the captain, to me, it would be Tonali. I don't know about him on a social level, but what he demonstrates and his example that he leads truly on the pitch is remarkable. The kid doesn't stop hustling. He is, I shouldn't call him a kid because he's truly turning into a man at this point. He's tough. He plays the smart ball. He gets stuck in. He has a lot of the characteristics that I think an Azzurri captain, any type of captain, truly needs. So he makes a point here, Horncastle, and he says even Paolo Rossi was caught up in a betting scandal and served a 2-year ban. He said, though, in contrast to the other betting scandal, this one does not have a match fixing angle. This one is truly just the idea was that Zaniolo was betting on his own team when he was in the stands, or I'm sorry, on the bench, but should have been in the stands. Not that it makes a difference, but I think that probably Zaniolo is going to get the worst of this. This is a player that Monchi pushed for. He's on loan from Turkey. He's probably not going to get purchased as their loan with option to buy, but he has been a important player for Emery, and that he stepped in for Diaby and Bailey when those wingers were out. He gets used across the front three for Villa, even if his teammates don't often pass to him, which I noticed. So what happens now? Due process needs to be allowed to take place in the criminal and sporting justice system under the presumption of innocence. So nothing yet. These players are going to go back to playing with their respective teams, with their clubs, and we'll see what happens from there. The trials could take a very long time. It may very well not happen until the summer. Who knows? But as we take a look at the projected lineup for the qualifier against Malta, Italy sit with 7 points joint alongside Ukraine and North Macedonia, if I'm not incorrect there. And England is in first with 13 points. We're going to take a look at their last starting 11 in their last Euro qualifier. But here we can see the projected lineup. Berardi on the right, Raspadori as a false 9. Just triggered in my mind, had a dream about what it was needed to do to play a false 9. Like, I often try to play that position sometimes. But Kane on the left here as a left wing, which I thought was quite odd. Not somebody. Zaccagni is out for injury, and I think a couple other players as well. I think Baldanzi should have been thrown in here. Even if he played more centrally, he could have, I think, helped this attack a lot. But you know what? That probably would have stepped on Bonaventura's toes. We see step in the midfield there for Tonali. I'm not sure how this is really going to work. Barella being the utility player, Bonaventura more fantasy, Locatelli a regista, but not a true defensive midfielder. I'm not totally confident that this top 6 is going to click. I think there's a big drop off. Your best player is Barella, of course, or your most important player, I should say. Berardi needs to have a good game, but it's far from being a great starting 11. But then again, I mean, against Malta, Italy should be able to play their not just C, D, or even E team and get a win here. Di Marco definitely at the left, Bastoni, Mancini, Darmian, and Donnarumma. I think that just banking on Donnarumma because of the past is not good enough anymore. I think Vicario should get a shot. I think Mancini maybe should be subbed out for Scalvini for the sake of Italy, for their growth. I think that him and Bastoni should get used to playing together. That would be really good for them. And of course, you want to put out your best starting 11, but I think that those two have such a high ceiling if they work together. Some people might say, okay, but my IFTV made a post yesterday about this. What do you think? And I said, as much as I love Mancini, he's a Roma player. He's a great player. I think that Italy would be better off long term with Scalvini there, even if it's not a back 3. As we see, of course, Spalletti's going to play a back 4. He always does. So it's far from perfect, but it is probably a, somebody here says Acerbi as well. I don't think so. I think Italy at this point should move on from Acerbi. But let me know what you think about this starting formation. I'll read it to you if you're listening on a podcast. From right to left, Darmian, Mancini, Bastoni, Di Marco. The midfield, Bonaventura, Locatelli, Barella, with the top 3 of Berardi, Raspadori, and Kane playing as a left winger. And in net, Donnarumma. Let me know what you think about that. Right in. Now I would like to take a look at England as they played against Ukraine sometime last international break. So that Ukraine team is not bad. Zinchenko, Yaremchuk, Konoplia, Mikolenko. They've got Mudryk. They've got players. They're not bad at all. Stepanenko. But we see England's team from right to left. Walker, Maguire, Guehi steps in, Chilwell. It's a good defense, man. Even Maguire. I know. If you watch Manchester United, you're probably laughing at that. Jordan Henderson, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham. Bellingham's top 5 players in the world right now. Saka, Kane, and James Madison, who it looks like this is a 4-3-3, but I would imagine that Madison plays much more centrally when they do play. Marcus Rashford on the bench, Phil Foden, geez, Gallagher, Trippier. This team is stacked. Tomori, when he's fit. Ramsdale. Wow. Southgate has quite the team, doesn't he, guys? England's got to be a favorite to win this whole tournament, don't they? I'm going to take a look at the comments and see if anything's coming in. Guys, write them in. Let me know what you think about that as well. If England are the favorites to win the European tournament, because I think with that team, how could you say no? But I would like to talk about our next topic here. Speaking about Donnarumma and Vicario, Vicario is a player that I wanted to see at Roma last year, but I want to bring up some names here. We have got a few, I would say 4 or 5 keepers that should be tied to Roma right now. Falcone from Lecce, Di Gregorio from Monza. I'm going to throw out Mattia Perin there, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Skorupski, yes, and Stefano Turati. If you have strong feelings about these guys, I want to know why. Because I know, topical, I could look at statistics of keepers. I could watch a couple big saves in the highlights, but I know that some of you are keepers out there. So I want to hear your opinions on them. The first one, Falcone is arguably the most important MIP to Lecce, right? You could say Strefezza, the captain, but he was with Lecce in Serie B. He goes up with them. And if we take a look at this tab here, we could see, where is he? He's actually not even in the top. Falcone, no, he's not in the top 10 so far this season. Where is he? Yeah, number 11, 66.7%. Goals conceded 10. So it's not a great stat for him. But then we could see keepers just as well, who are, incredible. Mike Magnan, goals conceded 7, save percentage 65%. So it's even lower. So you can't just go off of this. Meret to 52.6. That's awful. And then Rui Patricio, 42.9. Worst keeper in the league so far. Statistically has conceded 12 goals. Jeez, man. But let me go back to my notes real quick here. Falcone, in the discussion last year for the best Serie A keeper alongside Provedel, and his performances did tail off a little bit at the end of the season, but I think that Falcone is still a name that Roma should look at right now. He was 6th in Serie A last season, 73.7 save percentage. He's 27 years old, and he's a consistent keeper, and that is definitely someone who I think would make a big difference for Roma in this year. Get him in January. Get him right now. Was the top keeper in Serie B, above 80% save percentage, and he was a backup then to Audero at Sampdoria. So this is, I believe he's also an ex-Juventus prospect. But I would also like to bring up Di Gregorio, 27 years old. He's been on Roma's radar apparently for some time now. They've got a good defense with Izzo, and Di Gregorio has worked out very well for them so far. 25 years old. Did I say 27? 25. Saved about 72.5% of the shots he faced last season, and definitely somebody who should be on the list of top keepers in Serie A. And if we look at number 1 right now, if you look at your screen, goals conceded only 6, and we're going to be up to match day 9 come the end of the international break. 83.3 save percentage. Between Falcone and Di Gregorio, these are two keepers I really like. Let me know what you think about them. And as we work down this list that I made last night, Mattia Perin, still playing back up to Szczesny, but I wonder if the player who has Roma in his heart wouldn't mind being the number 1. I do get concerned about Perin's injury history, his salary as well, and also the fact that he's content to be a backup tells me a little something weird about his mentality. Skorupski, 32 years old, ex-Roma player. He has grown substantially at Bologna. He's a leader. I could see him being totally a keeper who would help Roma in so many ways. I know that he had some not nice things to say when he left the club, but football is business. You got to get in the players who will do a good job for you sometimes. And lastly, a bit of a surprise here I want to bring up is Stefano Turati. And let's take a look at his Wikipedia page here. Born 2001, which is weird. I was 11. I could remember that very clearly. He's 6'3". He is on loan from Sassuolo, started his career at Inter Milan. At age 18, he made his professional debut against Juventus in Serie a 2-2 draw away from home there, it says. And so far has played for Renate, Sassuolo, Regina, and Frosinone, of course, is a Italy U21 international. He's made 4 appearances so far, if we are to trust Wiki. So this is also a guy, Roma should totally be looking at. If you were to sign someone like Turati, you don't have to think about a keeper for the next 12 years. So it's good business, man. You give him 10, 12 million, you don't got to think about it. You just got to pay your guy, and that's it. I just want to see if there's any. Yeah. Oh. That's my mom. Hi, Mom. Hey, Wayne. Hey, says Uche. What's up, man? How are you doing? Okay. So, Rui Patricio, to cap off this conversation, he's got to be replaced as the number one. It's not acceptable that for 2 seasons in a row now, he's got the lowest save percentage, well below 45%. Roma's leaking in goals, 12 goals so far in just 8 matches. It's not good enough. It's about 1.25, 1.3 per match. Definitely not what the team needs. Just a quick quip before we go on. Check out this tweet I came across right before we went on air, and it says from Fede Farco. It's not a account I'm familiar with. Let's see who this is. So contributed to Inter, Dugout. Okay, so a couple media things here. And he says, this is how you access the away end in Bolzano when visiting Sudetro. That's very cool. I would like to go up there. That's by the Alps. A lot of teams train up in Bolzano, and they've got some cool Christmas markets in December as well. It's supposed to be really pretty. It's an area of Italy I haven't yet explored. I've seen most of Italy, which is kind of been like a lifelong dream that I've been lucky to do. But Bolzano is one area, and I'm thinking of another. It's on the tip of my tongue. Also, Calabria is one place, in Puglia. A couple places I haven't seen still, but take a look at that view. But now is definitely the time to take a look at this story by Lukaku. We're going to read this article from the Players Tribune. It's called "I've Got Some Things to Say." And brace yourself. This is going to be about 5 to 7 minutes, and you can definitely keep comments coming in the meantime. He says, I remember the exact moment I knew we were broke. I can still picture my mom at the fridge and the look on her face. I was 6 years old, and I came home from lunch during our break at school. My mom had the same thing on the menu every single day, bread and milk. When you're a kid, you don't even think about it, but I guess that's what we could afford. Then this one day I came home, and I walked into the kitchen, and I saw my mom at the fridge with the box of milk like normal. But this time, she was mixing something in with it. She was shaking it all up, I didn't understand what was going on. Then she brought my lunch over to me, and she was smiling like everything was cool. But I realized right away what was going on. She was mixing water in with the milk. We didn't have enough money to make it last the whole week. We were broke. Not just poor, but broke. My father had been a pro footballer, but he was at the end of his career, and the money was all gone. The first thing to go was the cable TV. No more football. No more match of the day. No signal. Then I'd come home at night, and the lights would be shut off. No electricity for 2-3 weeks at a time. Then I'd want to take a bath, and there'd be no hot water. My mom would heat up a kettle on the stove, and I'd stand in the shower splashing the warm water on top of my head with a cup. There were even times when my mom had to quote-unquote borrow bread from the bakery down the street. The bakers knew me and my little brother, so they let her take a loaf of bread on Monday and pay them back on Friday. I knew we were struggling, but when she was mixing in water with the milk, I realized it was over. You know what I mean? This was our life. This is the first time I've read this, by the way. I did look at a couple of lines before, thinking of narrating this, but this is tough stuff. This is a player who's about to break into the top 10 most goals international scored ever. If he scores again on Belgium, he will be in the top 10. And not that goals have anything to do with living conditions, but it just shows you how far that he's come. I'm going to keep on going. He says, I didn't say a word. I didn't want her to stress. I just ate my lunch, but I swear to God, I made a promise to myself that day. It was like somebody snapped their fingers and woke me up. I knew exactly what I had to do, and what I was going to do. I couldn't see my mother living like that. No. I couldn't have that. People in football love to talk about mental strength. Well, I'm the strongest dude you're ever going to meet because I remember sitting in the dark with my brother and my mom, saying our prayers and thinking, believing, knowing it's going to happen. I kept my promise to myself for a while, but then some days I'd come home from school and find my mom crying. So I finally told her one day, Mom, it's going to change. You'll see. I'm going to play football for Anderlecht, and it's going to happen soon. We'll be good. You won't have to worry anymore. I was 6. I asked my father, when can you start playing professional football? He said, 16. I said, okay, 16 then. It was going to happen, period. You love that belief, right? Let me tell you something. Every game I ever played was a final. When I played in the park, it was a final. When I played during break in kindergarten, it was a final. I'm dead ass serious. I used to try to tear the cover off the ball every time I shot. Full power. We weren't hitting R1, bro. No finesse shots. I didn't have the new FIFA. I didn't have a PlayStation. I wasn't playing around. I was trying to kill you. When I started growing taller, some of the teachers and the parents would be stressing me. I'll never forget the first time I heard one of the adults say, hey, how old are you? What year were you born? I'm like, what? Are you serious? When I was 11, I was playing for Leer's youth team, and one of the parents from the other team literally tried to stop me from going on the pitch. He was like, how old is this kid? Where is his ID? Where is he from? I thought, where am I from? What? I was born in Antwerp. I'm from Belgium. My dad wasn't there because he didn't have a car to drive to my away games. I was all alone, and I had to stand up for myself. I went and got my ID from my bag and showed it to all the parents, and they were passing it around, inspecting it. And I remember the blood rushing through me, and I thought, I'm going to kill your son even more now. I was already going to kill him, but now I'm going to destroy him. You're going to drive the boy home crying now. I wanted to be the best footballer in Belgian history. That was my goal. Not good, not great, the best. I played with so much anger because a lot of things. Because of the rats running around in our apartment. Because I couldn't watch the Champions League. Because of how the other parents used to look at me. I was on a mission. When I was 12, I scored 76 goals in 34 games. I scored them all wearing my dad's shoes. Once our feet got to be the same size, we used to share. One day I called up my grandfather, my mom's dad. He is one of the most important people in my life. He was my connection back to Congo, where my mom and dad are from. So I was on the phone with him one day and I said, yeah, I'm doing really well. I scored 76 goals and we won the league. The big teams are noticing me. And usually he always wanted to hear about my football, but this time it was strange. He said, yeah, Rom, yeah, that's great. But can you do me a favor? I said, yeah, what is it? He said, can you look after my daughter, please? I remember being so confused, like, what's granddad on about? I said, Mom, yeah, we're cool. We're okay. He said, no, promise me. Can you promise me? Just look after my daughter. Just look after her for me, okay? I said, yeah, granddad, I got it. I promise you. 5 days later, he passed away, and then I understood what he really meant. It makes me so sad to think about it because I just wish that he could have lived another 4 years to see me play for Anderlecht, to see that I kept my promise, to see that everything was going to be okay. I told my mom that I would make it at 16. I was late by 11 days. May 24th, 2009, the playoff final. Anderlecht versus Standard Liège. Geez, I should have definitely read this, I think, before doing this on air because it is quite emotional. He says, that was the craziest day of my life. But we have to back up for a minute because at the start of the season, I was barely playing for the Anderlecht U19s. The coach had me coming off the bench. I'm like, how the hell am I going to sign a pro contract on my 16th birthday if I'm still on the bench for the U19s? So I made a bet with our coach. I told him, I'll guarantee you something. If you actually play me, I'm going to score 25 goals by December. He laughed. He literally laughed at me. I said, let's make a bet then. He said, okay, but if you don't score 25 by December, you're going to the bench. I said, fine, but if I win, you're going to clean all the minivans that take the players home from training. He said, okay, it's a deal. I said, and one more thing, you have to make pancakes for us every day. He said, okay, fine. That was the dumbest bet that man had ever made. I had 25 by November. We were eating pancakes before Christmas, bro. Let that be a lesson. You don't play around with a boy who's hungry. I signed my pro contract with Anderlecht on my birthday, May 13th. Went straight out and bought the new FIFA and a cable package. It was already the end of the season, so I was at home chilling. But the Belgian league was crazy that year because Anderlecht and Standard Liège had finished tied on points. So there was a two-leg playoff to decide the title. During the first leg, I'm at home watching on TV like a fan. Then the day before the second leg, I get a phone call from the coach of the reserves. Hello? Hello, Rom. What are you doing? About to go play football in the park? No, 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 no. Pack your bags right now. What? What did I do? No, no, no. You need to get to the stadium right now. The first team wants you now. Yo, what? Me? Yeah, you. Come now. I literally sprinted into my dad's bedroom and was like, yo, get your ass up right now. We got to go, man. He's like, huh? What? Go where? I'm like, Anderlecht, man. I'll never forget. I showed up to the stadium and I like pretty much ran into the dressing room. And the kit man said, okay, kid, what number do you want? And I said, give me the number 10. Aha, I don't know. I was too young to be scared, I guess. He was like, academy players have to take 30 and above. I said, okay, well, 3 plus 6 equals 9. And that's a cool number. So give me 36. That night at the hotel, the senior players made me sing a song for them at dinner. I can't even remember what I picked. My head was spinning. The next morning, my friend literally knocked on the door of my house to see if I wanted to play football, and my mom was like, he's out playing. My friend said, playing where? She said, the final. We got off the bus at the stadium, and every single player walked in wearing a cool suit, except me. I came off the bus wearing a terrible tracksuit, and all the TV cameras were right in my face. The walk to the locker room was like 300 meters, maybe a 3-minute walk. As soon as I put my foot in the locker room, my phone starts blowing up. Everybody had seen me on TV. I had 25 messages in 3 minutes. My friends were going crazy. Bro, why are you at the game? Rom, what is happening? Why are you on TV? The only person I texted back was my best friend. I said, bro, I don't know if I'm going to play. I don't know what's going on, but just keep watching the TV. In the 63rd minute, the manager subbed me on. I ran out to the field for Anderlecht at 16 years and 11 days old. We lost the final that day, but I was already in heaven. I made good on my promise to my mother and to my granddad. That was the moment I knew we were going to be okay. Jeez. The next season, I was still finishing up. We're almost towards the end here, by the way. The next season, I was still finishing up my last year of high school and playing in the Europa League at the same time. I used to have to take a big bag to school so I could catch a flight in the afternoon. We won the league by a mile, and I finished second for African Player of the Year. It was just crazy. Gee, still in high school. I actually expected all that to happen, but maybe not so fast. All of a sudden, the media was building me up and putting all these expectations on me, especially with the national team. For whatever reason, I just wasn't playing well for Belgium. It wasn't working out. But yo, come on. I was 17, 18, 19. When things were going well, I was reading newspaper articles and they were calling me Romelu Lukaku, the Belgian striker. When things weren't going well, they were calling me Romelu Lukaku, the Belgian striker of Congolese descent. If you don't like the way I play, that's fine, but I was born here. I grew up in Antwerp and Liège and Brussels. I dreamed of playing for Anderlecht. I dreamed of being Vincent Company. I'll start a sentence in French and finish it in Dutch, and I'll throw in some Spanish or Portuguese or Lingala, depending on what neighborhood we're in. I'm Belgian. We're all Belgian. That's what makes this country cool, right? I don't know why some people in my own country want to see me fail. I really don't. When I went to Chelsea and I wasn't playing, I heard them laughing at me. When I got loaned out to West Brom, I heard them laughing at me. But it's cool. Those people weren't with me when we were pouring water in our cereal. If you weren't with me when I had nothing, then you can't really understand me. You know what's funny? I missed 10 years of Champions League football when I was a kid. We never could afford it. I would come into school and all the kids would be talking about the final, and I have had no idea what had happened. I remember back in 2002 when Madrid played Leverkusen. Everybody was like, the volley. Oh my God, the volley. I had to pretend like I knew what they were talking about. 2 weeks later, we were sitting in computer class, and one of my friends downloaded the video off the internet, and I finally saw Zidane smash it into the top corner with his left. That summer, I went over to his house so I could watch Ronaldo phenomenal in the World Cup final. Everything else from that tournament is just a story I heard from the kids at school. Ha! I remember I had holes in my shoes in 2002. Big holes. 12 years later, I was playing in the World Cup. Now I'm about to play in another World Cup, and you know what? I'm going to remember to have fun this time. Life is too short for the stress and the drama. People can say whatever they want about our team and about me. Last couple lines here. Man, listen. When we were kids, we couldn't afford to watch Thierry Henry on Match of the Day. Now I'm learning from him every day with the national team. I'm standing with the legend in the flesh, and he's telling me all about how to run into space like he used to. Thierry might be the only guy in the world who watches more football than me. We debate everything. We're sitting around and having debates about German second division football. I'm like, Thierry, have you seen the Fortuna Dusseldorf setup though? He's like, don't be silly. Yes, of course. That's the coolest thing in the world to me. I just really, really wish my granddad was around to witness this. I'm not talking about the Premier League, not Man U, not Champions League, not the World Cups. That's not what I mean. I just wish he was around to see the life we have now. I wish I could have one more phone call with him and I could let him know. See, I told you, your daughter is okay. No more rats in the apartment. No more sleeping on the floor. No more stress. We're good now. We're good. They don't have to check the ID anymore. They know our name. Ah, man, that's an incredible story. If you stayed with us um, for that entirety, I thank you. But that's just really really cool to have gone through and learned about him. Of course, this was written about 5 years ago, and things have drastically changed. He's definitely accepted to be the best Belgian player of all time at this point. So the national team has worked out for him. He's going to be top 10 international goal scorers of all time. So, yes, give a like as well. Demir is here. Guys, we're going to say goodbye now. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are watching it recorded, leave a like, a comment, a subscription. If you've made it this far, hope you like what you have heard. We'll talk soon, okay? Ciao, ciao.